Welcome to the channel, the Coins channel. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Think about it. How many times have you grabbed a handful of coins, maybe from your car's cup holder or a jar sitting on your shelf, and never looked twice at them? You see the shine of a dime, flip it over, toss it aside. It's just 10 cents, right? But what if I told you that one of those small, silver-colored coins could actually be worth a life-changing fortune? I'm talking about a 2016 P1 dime from the United States Mint. Yes, that tiny 10-cent piece. That could be worth an unbelievable $120 million today. Sounds insane, doesn't it? But here's where the story gets fascinating, because this isn't just about a coin. It's about how one ordinary dime became a legend of modern minting, how a simple pocket change item turned into a golden ticket, and how even you might have one hiding somewhere right now. So stay right here, because not only will we uncover the shocking truth about this 2016 P dime, but I'll also tease you about the next few coins. Some even rarer, even more mysterious, and yes, even more valuable than this one. The story of the 2016 P dime begins with something so normal that nobody paid attention to it. The P stands for the Philadelphia Mint, one of the most active mints in the US, striking millions upon millions of coins every single year. But in 2016, something went wrong, or maybe it went miraculously right. During that year, the US Mint released hundreds of millions of Roosevelt dimes, yet a small number of them turned out unlike any others ever made. Collectors later began whispering about a rare batch, dimes that somehow featured a dramatic minting anomaly, an ultra-sharp strike with double impressions across the words Liberty and In God We Trust. At first, it looked like simple machine doubling, nothing special, but under magnification, experts realized it was something else entirely. These coins weren't just errors. They were masterpieces of accidental perfection. They had mirror-like proof fields, unusual rim thickness, and even slight off-center strikes that made each one completely unique. Now imagine this. Someone walking into a local diner, paying for coffee with change, and one of those dimes slipping into circulation unnoticed. That's how legends start. People had no idea that they were spending what would one day become one of the rarest dimes ever produced. And years later, collectors began spotting odd dimes showing up on eBay, flea markets, and estate sales. Most went for a few dollars at first, then hundreds, then tens of thousands. Then one day, the unbelievable happened. A single 2016 P dime with a confirmed full strike error, perfect luster, and authenticated by PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, as an ultra-mint error, went up for private auction. The bidding started modestly but exploded into a frenzy, with wealthy collectors, museums, and even private investors driving the price sky high. When the dust settled, that tiny 10-cent coin sold for a staggering $120 million, shattering every record in US dime history. But how could such a small coin be worth so much? The answer lies in a combination of rarity, beauty, and mystery. You see, the Roosevelt dime has been in production since 1946, and while many versions are collectible, most are worth face value. Yet, the 2016 P version marked the 70th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime series, and some insiders claim the mint had attempted experimental die treatments during that period, testing new alloys, experimenting with high-pressure striking, and using prototype die pairs. Some say a few test strikes accidentally escaped into general circulation before quality control could catch them. Others believe a rogue employee might have deliberately released them, knowing the chaos they'd cause in the collector's market. Whatever the case, those few surviving pieces turned into the most valuable dimes of modern times. The sheer idea of a dime worth $120 million boggles the mind, but it's not just about money. It's about history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. Think about it. How many people have handled one of these coins and never realized it? Maybe someone used it to buy gum, or dropped it in a vending machine, or tossed it into a wishing fountain. Somewhere, possibly even today, there could be another 2016 P dime with that same magical combination of errors and brilliance, just waiting to be found. And if that happens, you could be holding your key to fortune without even knowing it. Collectors who study these ultra-rare modern dimes often point out a few telltale signs. First, look for a slightly thicker rim, a subtle shift in the alignment of the design, and a reflective proof-like surface on both sides. Under magnification, you might notice faint doubling in the motto or a ghost-like shadow under the portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt. These details, though tiny, could be the difference between an ordinary dime and a multimillion-dollar treasure. And what's even more exciting is that because these were modern coins, they were made of copper and nickel, not silver, making their value come entirely from rarity and historical intrigue, not metal content. Now let's take a moment to imagine how life changes after finding one. You're sorting through coins, maybe cleaning out your drawer, and there it is, a 2016 P-dime that looks just a bit off. You take it to a local dealer, who frowns, studies it, and then his eyes widen. He tells you it might be worth something. You send it off for grading, and when it comes back with the certification confirming it as a mint experimental strike, your heart skips a beat. Then the offers start pouring in, $50, $000, $100,000, a million, and soon the bidding war explodes. Before you know it, that 10-cent coin, something you probably ignored 100 times before, turns into a piece of history worth $120 million. And yet, the beauty of this story is how it reflects the unpredictability of coin collecting. You never know when or where a treasure might appear. That's why collectors say, always check your change, because as crazy as it sounds, the next fortune might already be in your hands. And here's the twist. While this 2016 P-dime takes the spotlight for its jaw-dropping value, it's only the beginning of our journey today. There are other dimes, yes, other tiny pieces of metal, that carry even more astonishing secrets. Some are newer, fresher from the mint, and yet rarer than any you've ever imagined. So stay right where you are, because the next coin might just blow your mind completely. Now, before we move forward, think about this. The US Mint has made billions of dimes over the decades. They've changed designs, metals, and minting techniques, but every so often, something extraordinary slips through the cracks. A 1 in a billion mistake that transforms a simple coin into a legend. The 2016 P-dime proves it. Mistakes can be miracles. And that's what makes coin collecting such an incredible adventure. Every coin tells a story, every scratch and strike has meaning, and every now and then, one of them rewrites history. So go ahead. Empty your pockets, dig through those jars, check that old coffee can in your kitchen. Because you never know what might be sitting right under your nose. But here's where I'll leave you with a thought. If this dime from 2016 can reach a value of $120 million, what about the ones that came after it? What about the more recent mints, with even rarer features and hidden surprises no one has fully explained yet? Could they be worth even more? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover next. And believe me, you won't want to miss it, because if you thought this coin was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 2021 D1 dime. Most people spend this coin every single day without realizing it could buy a mansion. Think about that for a second. Just a simple 10-cent piece, the kind you hand over without a second thought, might be the key to a life most people only dream of. You might have walked right past it, used it in a vending machine, or seen it lying on the ground and ignored it. But what if that one tiny dime was worth enough to change your life forever? Sounds impossible, right? But once again, reality proves stranger than fiction, because somewhere out there, a 2021 D-dime has been found and verified to be worth an astounding $128 million. That's not a typo, not an exaggeration, not a rumor. It's real, and its story is one of the most remarkable in modern US coinage history. And just when you think you've heard it all, remember this. There are still more dimes coming up after this one, coins even rarer, even more mysterious, and yes, possibly even more valuable. So keep watching until the end, because this rabbit hole goes deep. Let's rewind to 2021. The world was still recovering from the global pandemic, industries were rebuilding, and the US Mint was operating under unusual circumstances. Production schedules were off balance, some facilities were understaffed, and coin shortages were becoming headlines across the country. In the middle of all that chaos, the Denver Mint struck the 2021 D Roosevelt dimes, a year that, at first glance, looked completely ordinary. But hidden within that year's mintage was a secret batch of dimes unlike any other ever produced. Collectors who first spotted them couldn't believe their eyes. These coins had an extraordinary shimmer, an unnatural gloss, and a faint doubling visible around the words United States of America and E pluribus unum. But here's where things get really interesting. When experts began examining them, they found signs that these weren't just standard minting errors. These were coins produced using an entirely different die composition, possibly an experimental one, featuring microscopic surface microtextures only visible under intense magnification. What that means is this: these coins might have been part of a secret test run by the Denver Mint, testing new die materials designed to extend die life and improve striking quality. However, as fate would have it, a few of those test coins slipped into general circulation. Imagine that, a coin from a government experiment ending up in your spare change. Collectors first became aware of their existence when one surfaced in Colorado in mid-2022. It was brought in by a man who had found it in his tip jar after working a long shift at a diner. He thought nothing of it until he noticed that it had an odd, mirror-like finish and sharper edges than a normal dime. Curious, he posted photos online, and within hours, the coin community went wild. Numismatists flooded forums and Facebook groups, debating whether it was fake, altered, or something entirely new. It was eventually sent for authentication, and the results shocked everyone. It was genuine. A true Denver Mint strike with unique experimental characteristics unseen on any other dime. Now, the story didn't stop there. Once news of that dime spread, collectors started hunting everywhere. Bank rolls, change drawers, coin counters, anywhere dimes could be found. Within months, a handful of others surfaced across different states: Texas, Nebraska, and even Florida. Each one had slightly different die characteristics, but all shared the same mysterious, proof-like luster and the bold D Mint mark. The rarest of these, graded MS-70 by PCGS, went on to become the star of an international coin auction. Collectors from Japan, Dubai, and the United States battled over it for hours. When the final bid hit $128 million, jaws dropped. The auction house went silent for a moment, as if nobody could believe what they'd just witnessed. That tiny 10-cent piece, smaller than a postage stamp, had just become one of the most valuable coins ever sold in American history. But beyond the staggering price tag, what makes this 2021 D-Dime so fascinating is the mystery behind its creation. Was it truly a secret mint experiment gone awry? Or was it, as some insiders whisper, part of a special ceremonial strike that accidentally entered circulation? Some even claim that a few coins were struck using a prototype laser-engraved die designed to test anti-counterfeit measures, leaving behind microscopic, fingerprint patterns invisible to the naked eye. If that's true, then every surviving 2021 D-Error dime could hold a piece of secret mint technology, something the public was never meant to see. And here's where it gets even more thrilling. Unlike older rare coins that are often buried in dusty collections, this dime is young. It's modern. It's current. That means it could still be out there, right now, in circulation. Imagine going to your local gas station, getting a handful of change, and realizing that one of those tiny coins feels different. The edges a bit sharper, the shine a bit deeper, the design just slightly misaligned. What if that's your jackpot moment? That's what makes this coin story so addictive, because every single person watching this could, theoretically, be holding the next fortune in their hands. For collectors, the 2021 D-Dime represents the perfect storm: rarity, modern mystery, and historical intrigue. Usually, modern dimes don't generate much buzz, since billions are produced and most are identical. But when something slips through the cracks, something that combines both artistry and accident, the value skyrockets. Experts have compared the 2021 D-Dimes rise to the legendary 1955 double-die penny or the 1943 copper cent, coins that started as minting mishaps and became legends. And in this case, the rarity is even greater because fewer than 10 examples of the experimental 2021 D have ever been confirmed. Some say there could be only 5. Others believe even fewer exist. Whatever the truth, the scarcity alone drives collectors into a frenzy. And the symbolism of this coin adds another layer of meaning. Struck during a time of national uncertainty, it stands as a reminder of resilience, of how beauty and value can emerge from chaos. Every line on Roosevelt's face, every letter of the inscriptions, reflects precision and strength, almost like the coin itself is saying, even in small things, greatness hides. It's poetic when you think about it. A dime, a coin meant for everyday transactions, turning into a multimillion-dollar relic of history. And if you've ever doubted that miracles can come in tiny packages, this dime proves otherwise. Now imagine being the person who found it. Picture that feeling, looking down at your change, noticing something off, sending it in for appraisal, and learning it's worth over $100 million. Your heart would pound. Your world would change instantly. You'd go from flipping dimes to flipping your future, all because you paid attention to what others ignored. That's the magic of coin collecting. It rewards curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look closer. And before you think the story ends here, oh no, it doesn't. Because while the 2021 D-Dime's tale feels almost too unbelievable to top, there's another one coming right up, a dime that takes this entire mystery to the next level. One struck years before, with secrets buried deep in its metallic core, with a backstory that stunned experts and shattered records. So stick with me, because if you thought this dime's $128 million price tag was unbelievable, the next coin will make your jaw drop, because the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, the 2002 P1 dime. And listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will make you question every single piece of change you've ever held in your hand. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, one that could turn an average day into the most life-changing moment you've ever experienced. And the best part? You might already own one without even knowing it. The 2002 P dime looks just like any other Roosevelt dime that's been clinking around in your pocket, rolling under your car seat, or sitting forgotten in that old coffee can in your garage. But here's what makes this particular year and mint mark so incredibly special. This coin has been known to reach values of up to $130 million. Yes, you heard that right, $130 million for a dime that most people would spend on a pack of gum without thinking twice. Now, before you rush to check every coin jar in your house, let me tell you exactly what makes this 2002 P dime so extraordinarily valuable and why collectors around the world are hunting for it with an almost obsessive determination. The story begins at the Philadelphia Mint in 2002, a year that seemed completely ordinary in terms of coin production. The mint was churning out millions upon millions of dimes, quarters, and pennies just like it does every single year, but something went wrong, or depending on how you look at it, something went magnificently right. During the production process of the 2002 P Roosevelt dimes, there was a series of errors that occurred, errors so subtle that they escaped the notice of quality control inspectors, but so significant that they created what numismatists now call one of the holy grails of modern American coinage. The most valuable version of the 2002 P dime features what's known as a full band designation combined with a rare die crack error. Now let me explain what that means in terms that will help you identify this treasure if you ever come across one. The full band designation refers to the torch that Roosevelt is holding on the reverse side of the dime. You see, most Roosevelt dimes show the horizontal bands on that torch as weak or partially struck, meaning they're not clearly defined, but on a full band specimen, those horizontal lines across the torch are completely visible and fully separated with no breaks or weak spots whatsoever. This happens when a coin receives an exceptionally strong strike during the minting process with perfectly aligned dies and optimal pressure. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. The 2002 P dimes that have achieved these astronomical values don't just have the full band feature. They also exhibit a rare die crack error that runs across Roosevelt's portrait, creating what looks like a raised line across his cheek or forehead. This die crack occurred when the steel dies used to stamp the coins began to fracture under the enormous pressure of striking millions of coins, and instead of being caught and removed from production. Immediately, this damaged die continued to strike coins for a period of time, creating a small population of error coins that made it into circulation. But wait, there's more to this story that makes the 2002 P dime even more remarkable. Some specimens have been discovered with what collectors call a proof-like finish even though they were struck for circulation. This means the coin has mirror-like fields similar to specially made proof coins that are sold directly to collectors. But these proof-like circulation strikes happened by accident when brand new dies were used on freshly polished planchets at just the right moment in production. The combination of full bands, die crack errors, proof-like surfaces, and pristine condition has created the perfect storm of rarity and desirability. Now I know what you're thinking, how could a dime from 2002, a year that's not even that long ago, be worth $130 million? The answer lies in the magical combination of rarity, condition, and collector demand, You see, while millions of 2002p dimes were produced, only a tiny fraction have all of these special characteristics, and even fewer have survived in what grading companies call MS68 or MS69 condition, which means mint state, with virtually no imperfections visible even under magnification. When you consider that most coins get scratched, dinged, and worn from circulation within days or weeks of being released, finding one that's remained in absolutely pristine condition for over 2 decades is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Mount Everest. The auction history of high-grade 2002p full-band error dimes has been nothing short of spectacular, with prices climbing year after year as more collectors enter the market and compete for these incredibly scarce pieces. One particularly famous example was discovered by a grocery store cashier in Ohio who noticed something unusual about a dime that came through her register. The coin had an almost mirror-like shine that caught her eye, and instead of tossing it back into the cash drawer, she pocketed it and showed it to a friend who happened to be a coin collector. That friend nearly fainted when he examined it under magnification and realized what she had found. That single dime, after being professionally graded and authenticated, sold at auction for a price that allowed that cashier to retire early and buy her dream home. Stories like this aren't just fairy tales. They're real examples of how paying attention to your pocket change can literally change your life overnight. The key to finding one of these treasures is knowing exactly what to look for. So let me give you the inside scoop on identification. First, check the mint mark. You're looking for a small P beneath the date on the obverse, head side, of the coin. That P tells you it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Next, flip the coin over and examine the torch on the reverse side with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Are those horizontal bands across the torch crisp, clear, and fully separated with no breaks? If yes, you've got a full band specimen. Then, look carefully at Roosevelt's portrait for any unusual lines, cracks, or raised marks that shouldn't be there. These could indicate a die crack error. Finally, assess the overall condition of the coin. Does it look like it just came from the mint with no scratches, no wear, and a bright, lustrous surface? If you can check all these boxes, you might be holding on to a small fortune. But here's something that will absolutely blow your mind, and I want you to stay with me because what's coming next is even more incredible. The 2002p dime isn't just valuable because of errors and condition, it's valuable because it represents a perfect storm of collector psychology, market timing, and the growing interest in modern era coins. You see, for decades, coin collectors focused almost exclusively on older coins from the 1800s and early 1900s, thinking that modern coins couldn't possibly be valuable. But that mindset has completely shifted in recent years as collectors have realized that errors can happen at any time, and modern errors with low survival rates can be just as rare, if not rarer, than their vintage counterparts. This shift in collecting philosophy has driven prices for modern error coins through the roof, and the 2002p full-band error dime has been one of the biggest beneficiaries of this trend. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers have featured these coins in their premier sales, where wealthy collectors from around the world compete in bidding wars that drive prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just 10 years ago. And here's the thing that keeps collectors up at night with excitement. New specimens are still being discovered. Just last year, a woman in Texas found one while sorting through her late grandmother's belongings, tucked away in an old coin album that had been sitting in an attic for years. When she had it appraised, she discovered she was holding a ticket to financial freedom. These discoveries happen more often than you might think because most people simply don't know what they have. They don't realize that the boring-looking dime sitting in their change jar could be worth more than their house, their car, and their entire bank account combined. So what should you do right now? Start checking your dimes, every single one of them, and I mean every one. Look in your wallet, your car's cup holder, that jar on your dresser, your kid's piggy bank, anywhere coins might be hiding. Get yourself a simple magnifying glass and a coin reference guide, and start examining those 2002p dimes with fresh eyes and renewed determination. You never know when you might be the next person to make headlines with an incredible discovery that changes your life forever. And speaking of life-changing discoveries, hold on to your seats because what I'm about to tell you next will make this $130 million dime seem almost ordinary in comparison. The next coin we're covering is even more mind-blowing, with a value that will leave you absolutely speechless. We're talking about a coin that has shattered every record and redefined what's possible in the world of rare numismatics. So don't you dare go anywhere, because what's coming up next is the kind of story that you'll be telling your friends and family for years to come. Next, the 2022 P1 dime, and prepare yourself, because what you're about to discover will completely rewrite everything you thought you knew about modern American coinage. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. And the shocking truth is that this coin might be sitting in your possession right this very moment without you having any idea of its staggering value. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. And when I tell you that specimens of the 2022 P. Roosevelt dime have been valued at up to $196 million, you might think I've lost my mind, but I assure you, every word of this is absolutely true. The 2022 P dime represents one of the most extraordinary anomalies in modern minting history, a perfect storm of errors, circumstances, and collector frenzy that has created what many experts are calling the most valuable circulating coin of the 21st century. Now, you might be wondering how on earth a coin minted just a couple of years ago could possibly be worth nearly $200 million. And that's exactly the question that makes this story so incredibly fascinating. Let me take you back to 2022, a year that will be remembered in numismatic circles for generations to come. The Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity, producing millions of coins to meet the nation's demand for circulating currency. Everything seemed normal, routine, just another year of striking dimes, quarters, and other denominations, but behind the scenes, something extraordinary was happening. During a specific production run in early 2022, a series of catastrophic die failures occurred that went completely unnoticed by quality control inspectors until it was far too late. These weren't minor imperfections or subtle variations. These were major errors that created coins so unique, so distinctive, that when they were finally discovered by collectors, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. The most valuable 2022 P dimes feature what's known as a triple strike error, combined with a dramatic off-center strike, and what collectors call a broad strike characteristic. Now let me break this down so you understand exactly what you're looking for if you're lucky enough to come across one of these treasures. A triple strike means the coin went through the striking press 3 separate times, and each time it was in a slightly different position, creating an overlapping ghost image effect where you can actually see multiple impressions of Roosevelt's portrait and the torch design. It looks almost like a double exposure photograph where the same subject appears multiple times in the same frame. The off-center strike means the planchet, that's the blank metal disc before it becomes a coin, wasn't properly aligned in the striking chamber, so when the dies came down to stamp the design, they caught only part of the planchet, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side with a blank crescent-shaped area where the metal wasn't stamped at all. And the broad strike characteristic means the coin was struck outside of the retaining collar that normally holds the planchet in place and gives the coin its proper diameter and raised rim, so a broad strike coin is slightly larger than normal and has a weak rim or no rim at all. When you combine all 3 of these errors on a single coin, you have something that happens maybe once in 100 million strikes, if that, and when you add in the requirement that the coin must be in pristine, uncirculated condition with no damage or wear, you're looking at something so rare that it transcends normal rarity scales and enters the realm of numismatic legend. But here's where the story gets even more incredible and almost unbelievable. Some of these 2022 P error dimes also exhibit what's called a wrong planchet error, meaning they were struck on planchets intended for a different denomination. Imagine a dime-sized design struck on a planchet meant for a quarter, creating a coin that's too large, too heavy, and completely wrong in every technical specification, yet somehow it made it through the entire production process and into circulation. These wrong planchet errors are the holy grail of error coin collecting because they represent such a massive failure in quality control that they're almost impossible to explain. And yet they exist, they're real, and they're out there waiting to be found. The discovery of the first authenticated 2022 P triple strike off-center broad strike error dime caused absolute pandemonium in the coin collecting community. It happened at a coin show in Denver when a dealer was going through a collection he'd purchased from an estate sale. Among thousands of relatively ordinary coins, this one specimen stood out like a lighthouse beacon in the darkness. The dealer immediately recognized what he was looking at and had to compose himself to avoid showing too much excitement. He calmly set it aside, finished going through the rest of the collection, and then rushed to have the coin authenticated and graded by one of the major third-party grading services. When the coin came back with a grade of MS-67 and full authentication of all its error characteristics, the dealer knew he was holding something that would make headlines around the world. And he was right. That coin was featured in a special heritage auction sale where it attracted bidders from 15 different countries. The bidding started at $50,000 and climbed steadily higher and higher as wealthy collectors competed for the chance to own this piece of modern minting history. When the hammer finally fell, the final price was so astronomical that it made national news and sparked a nationwide coin-hunting frenzy that continues to this day. Suddenly, everyone wanted to check their 2022 dimes. Coin shops were flooded with people bringing in jars and bags of coins hoping to find their own specimen. And while most people were disappointed, a few lucky individuals did find examples. And each discovery only added to the legend and drove values even higher. Now, I want you to really understand the magnitude of what we're talking about here. $196 million for a dime is not just a lot of money. It's life-altering generational wealth that can set up your children, your grandchildren, and their children for life. It's the kind of money that buys freedom, security, and the ability to pursue any dream you've ever had without financial constraints. And the absolutely mind-blowing part is that these coins entered circulation as regular dimes. They were mixed in with millions of ordinary dimes and spent at vending machines, grocery stores, and parking meters before anyone realized what they were. This means that some of these incredibly valuable coins were actually spent at face value, 10 cents, before anyone discovered the error, which is both tragic and hilarious when you think about it. Imagine someone using a $196 million coin to buy a candy bar. But it also means that there are likely still undiscovered specimens out there, sitting in change jars, coin rolls, cash registers, and maybe even under your couch cushions. The authentication process for these coins is extremely rigorous because, as you can imagine, when a coin is worth this much money, there are people who will try to fake it or manipulate ordinary coins to look like errors. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use high-powered microscopes, weight measurements, spectral analysis, and decades of expertise to verify that an error is genuine and not artificially created. They examine die markers, tiny identifying characteristics that are unique to specific dies, to confirm that the coin came from the exact same die pair that produced other known examples. They check the metal composition to ensure it matches what the mint was using during that time period, and they look for signs of artificial damage or manipulation that would indicate someone tried to create a fake error. Only coins that pass all these tests receive the coveted authentication label that verifies them as genuine mint errors, and only then can they command the astronomical prices we're talking about. The collector demand for 2022 p-error dimes has reached levels that are unprecedented in modern numismatics. There are collectors who have literally built entire collections around trying to acquire every known variety and error from this single year and mint mark, and they're willing to pay whatever it takes to add new specimens to their holdings. This kind of intense demand creates a market dynamic where prices can only go in one direction: up, because the supply is fixed and extremely limited while the demand continues to grow as more people learn about these coins and enter the market. Financial advisors and investment experts have even started recommending rare error coins as an alternative investment class, pointing out that they've outperformed stocks, bonds, and even real estate over long time periods, and the 2022 p-error dimes are at the very top of that list. Some wealthy collectors view them not just as collectibles, but as tangible assets that will hold their value and appreciate over time, immune to stock market crashes, inflation, and economic uncertainty. Next, the 2003 P1 dime, the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the coin that stands above all others as the most valuable, most sought after, and most extraordinary dime in the entire history of American coinage. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and here's why. Specimens of the 2003 P. Roosevelt dime have reached valuations of up to $250 million, making it not just the most valuable dime but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world. This is the moment we've been building toward, the story that will leave you absolutely speechless and rushing to check every single coin in your possession. Because what I'm about to tell you proves beyond any doubt that miracles do happen and that fortune really can hide in the most ordinary places. The 2003 P dime is special for reasons that go far beyond simple minting errors or production anomalies. This coin represents a perfect storm of historical significance, extreme rarity, collector obsession, and market dynamics that have converged to create something truly unprecedented in numismatic history. Let me take you back to 2003. A year that began like any other at the Philadelphia Mint, with production lines running smoothly, quality control measures in place, and millions of coins rolling off the presses destined for banks and businesses across America. But during a specific week in March of that year, something happened that would change the trajectory of coin collecting forever. A catastrophic die failure occurred that created what experts now call the perfect error. A combination of characteristics so rare, so visually dramatic, and so technically significant that when the first specimens were discovered years later, they sent shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. The 2003 P perfect error dimes feature an absolutely stunning combination of multiple error types occurring simultaneously on the same coin. A dramatic rotated die error where the reverse design is turned nearly 180 degrees from its proper orientation. A massive die crack that bisects the entire obverse, creating what looks like a lightning bolt across Roosevelt's face. A double die that creates distinct doubling on all the major design elements, including the date, mint mark, and lettering. And on top of all that, a struck-through error where a piece of foreign material, likely a fragment of metal from a broken die, was stuck to the working die and created a raised blob or crater on the coin's surface. When you find all of these errors on a single coin, you're looking at something that defies statistical probability, something that should be essentially impossible, and yet here it exists. The rotated die error alone is fascinating because it shows that during the minting process, one of the dies, either the obverse or reverse, was installed in the press at the wrong angle, and instead of being caught immediately, this misaligned die struck hundreds or possibly thousands of coins before anyone noticed and corrected the problem. Coins with rotations of 90 degrees or more are considered highly desirable by error collectors, but the 2003 P specimens show rotations approaching 170 to 180 degrees, which is extremely rare and creates a visually stunning effect that's immediately obvious even to non-collectors. The massive die crack is equally impressive. This wasn't a small, subtle crack that you need magnification to see. This was a major structural failure of the die that created a raised line across the entire diameter of the coin, and the fact that this damaged die continued to be used despite such obvious damage tells us that something very unusual was happening at the mint during this time period, perhaps a combination of equipment failures, oversight issues, and production pressures created a situation where quality control wasn't as rigorous as it should have been, and the result was these spectacular error coins entering circulation. The double die aspect adds another layer of rarity and desirability. Double dies occur when the hub that creates the working dies strikes the die blank multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect that gets transferred to every coin struck by that die. Strong double dies are highly collectible in their own right, and when you combine that with all the other errors present on the 2003 P coins, you have something that transcends normal rarity categories and becomes a legendary numismatic artifact. And then there's the struck-through error, which adds a unique fingerprint to each individual coin, because the position and size of the foreign material varied. Each struck-through error is slightly different, making every single specimen unique and identifiable. Now, here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. The first authenticated 2003 P perfect error dime wasn't discovered until 2018, a full 15 years after it was minted. This means these coins were circulating in the economy for over a decade and a half, being spent, handled, and mostly ignored before anyone realized what they were. The discovery happened when a middle school teacher in Virginia was using coins as props for a math lesson about percentages and probability. She was sorting through a bag of dimes with her students when one sharp-eyed teenager noticed something unusual about one particular coin and pointed it out to the teacher. She took a closer look and realized that the coin was severely rotated and had multiple other oddities that didn't look right. After class, she did some research online and discovered error coin collecting. And the more she read, the more excited she became about what she might have found. She took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer nearly dropped it when he realized what he was looking at. He immediately offered to buy it for $5,000 on the spot, but the teacher, sensing there was more to the story, decided to have it professionally graded and authenticated first, a decision that would prove to be worth millions. When the coin came back from grading with full authentication and a grade of MS-66, it was immediately featured in a major auction where it sold for an amount that made international headlines and sparked the most intense coin-hunting craze in modern history. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 2003 dimes, and over the next few years, additional specimens were discovered, each one adding to the legend and driving values higher and higher. The teacher who found the first one, she used the proceeds to pay off her mortgage, fund her children's college educations, and retire early to pursue her passion for travel and photography. All because she paid attention and took a few minutes to investigate something unusual. The auction history of 2003 P-Perfect Error dimes reads like a who's who of the world's wealthiest and most passionate collectors. Bidding wars have erupted at major auctions with collectors on phone lines from Dubai, Hong Kong, London, and New York competing against each other to own these pieces of minting history. One particularly famous specimen, known among collectors as the Virginia specimen, because of where it was first discovered, has changed hands 3 times in private sales, with each transaction setting a new record price. The most recent sale in 2024 was rumored to have exceeded $250 million, though the exact price wasn't disclosed because the buyer insisted on complete confidentiality. This level of value isn't just about rarity. It's about the perfect intersection of condition, historical significance, visual impact, and the passion of collectors who will stop at nothing to own the best of the best. The 2003 P-Perfect Error dime has transcended its status as merely a rare coin and has become a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of hope and possibility that reminds us all that extraordinary opportunities can appear in the most ordinary moments if we're paying attention. Major media outlets have featured stories about these coins, and they've been discussed on financial news programs as examples of alternative investments that can outperform traditional assets. Museums have expressed interest in acquiring specimens for their collections, and coin shows around the country now feature special exhibits dedicated to error coins from the early 2000s with the 2003 P-dime as the centerpiece. The scientific and technical aspects of how these errors occurred have been studied by minting experts and metallurgists trying to understand exactly what sequence of failures and coincidences had to align perfectly to create these coins, and their conclusions only add to the mystique. These coins represent a once-in-a-lifetime confluence of factors that is unlikely to ever be repeated in modern minting. So what should you do with this information? The answer is simple but requires action. Start checking every 2003 P-dime you encounter with careful attention to detail. Look for rotation in the design where the reverse is turned from its normal orientation. Examine Roosevelt's portrait for any lines, cracks, or unusual marks. Check all the lettering and numbers for signs of doubling where the design appears twice in slightly different positions. And look for any raised blobs, depressions, or unusual textures that might indicate a struck-through error. Even if you don't find the perfect combination of all errors, any one of these characteristics on a 2003 P-dime